Hi, in this session we will review the miscellaneous charges in general and product demonstration for the same in Microsoft Dynamics AX 2012. Charges are cost and fees that you can add to the cost of items or sales and purchase transactions according to the setup. There can be different types of charges. For example, freight charge, insurance charge, handling charge, recycling charge, packaging charge, and postage charge, etc. Charges can be set up for a specific product, for a product group, or for all products, or for a specific customer, group of customers, or all customers, or for a specific vendor, group of vendors, or all vendors. Or it can be even set up for combinations of all. For example, customer product combinations or vendor product combinations. There are various methods of adding the charges. There are three ways of adding charges in Microsoft Dynamics AX 2012: as a price charge, manually, and automatic. Let us review them one by one in detail. Starting with price charge. Price charge is a fixed charge set up for a specific item. For example, a startup fee that is charged every time that the item is traded. The price charges features is set up on the release product form. Notice that when a fixed charge is specified on the release product form, the posting of the charges added is considered as a part of the item price and included in the calculations of inventory value and margin. A price charge is an amount that is added to the price of an item. A charge could be production and setup cost, fees, or freight. Price charges can be set up either quantity dependent or independent of quantity. Let us understand with an example. Quantity dependent price charge will vary based on the quantity traded. For example, we have $10 of charge applicable for every piece traded. That means $20 when 2 pieces are traded and $30 when 3 pieces are traded. Quantity independent price charge remains same irrespective of quantities are being traded. Let us say we have $10 of fixed price charge applicable for all quantities. Then whether we sell 1 pieces or 2 pieces or 3 pieces of bicycle, price charge of $10 will always be applicable. Let us review the product demonstration about how to set up price charge. As we understood earlier, price charge can be set up directly on a product, and in order to set it up for a product, go to the product information management, click on release product from the common action menu, and then filter the product for which you want to set up the price charge. In our case, it's a road bicycle. Open this product. We will minimize the general fast tab. Price charge for the purchase order can be set up under the purchase fast tab. Here we have different field groups. Here we have different fields under the charges field group: price charges and exclusive in unit price and price quantity. In our case, we will set up 10 euros of fixed price charge independent of quantity, and then later we will see how to make it dependent on quantity. So we will also minimize the purchase fast tab in this case, and under the sell fast tab, first click on edit in order to edit the record, and here we can set up the other details. So the field of our interest is price quantity, which specifies for how many units of bicycle we want to set up this charge. However, in this case it's a quantity independent, so that does not matter. So we will simply give a price charge of 10 euro. That's a fixed price charge independent of quantity. And then as a next step, we will create a sales order, and we will see whether it's being applied or not. So 100 euro is the base sales price, and with price charge of 10 euro, the sales price will become 110 euro. So let us go to the sales order, accounts receivable, and click on all sales order, create a new sales order. Here we can select the customer, and here in the item, select the product which we just set up the price charge for. As we can see, the unit price is 100, and Here we need to set up the quantities. We will only create the sales line for 1 pieces. We don't want to insert minimum quantity, so that we can verify the amount. So the net amount is 110. That is because we have a price charge of 10 euro. If we increase the quantity by 1 and if we make it to 2 pieces, the net amount will be 210. The 10 euros of fixed price charge will be applicable, and that is independent of quantity. Now, in order to make it dependent on quantity, there is a checkbox on the release product form under the sales first tab. We have a exclusive in unit price. If this checkbox is checked, this charge depends on the quantity. However, in order to make it quantity dependable, we also need to specify the price quantity. Here we in fact tell that the 10 euros of price charge is applicable for how many quantity. So we tell that it is applicable for 2 pieces. So every 2 pieces of bicycle will have a price charge of 10 euro. And it is important to check this checkbox exclusive in unit price, so that the price charge will be added into the unit price of the product. So now if we sell 1 piece, the unit price will be 105, and if we sell 2 pieces, the unit price is 105 and total net amount becomes 210. Let's verify that. So we have added a 10 euros of quantity dependent price charge for every 2 pieces of bicycle. Here we will create a line again, our bicycle, and as you can see, the unit price of 105 has been calculated using the price charge. So now if I make the pieces 2, then the net amount will be 210, but if I make the pieces as 3, then net amount will be 315, as you can see. So whenever exclusive in unit price is checked, the price charge will be considered as a part of unit price and will be added accordingly per quantity. So this is how we can set up quantity dependent price charge. Now let us review the other 2 methods of adding the miscellaneous charges, that is manual and automatic. However, to add manual and automatic charges, when we create a sales or a purchase order, we must set up the charges code. The charge codes are used to specify the kind of charge and how the charge is debited and credited. Let us first understand what is the charge code and how to create and set up in the system. The charge codes are used to specify the kind of charge and how the charge is debited and credited. For example, insurance charge, packing charge, installation charge, etc. Basically, it tells the type of charge being applied on the sales order and purchase order. Notice that different types of charge codes can be set up for customers and vendors. Let us understand credit and debit type. Debit or credit type determines the responsibility for the charge about who should incur it. The options are: first, item. When debit or credit type is set up as an item, a unit charge is added to the item cost. For example, a landed cost. Then second is the ledger account. When ledger account is set up as a debit or credit type, the charge is incurred internally and do not appear on sales or purchase transactions. And third option is customer and vendor. When customer or vendor incurs the charges, debit or credit type should be set to customer or vendor. Let us review the couple of charge code setup for customers. You can use 2 setups for sales in the posting first tab of the charge code forms to determine the responsibility for the charge. In scenario 1, the customer pays the charge and the charge is added to the sales order totals. And in scenario 2, the charges are incurred internally and do not appear on sales transactions. In scenario 1, debit type is set to customer and vendor. That means this will be incurred by the customer. And credit type is set to ledger account. That means it will be added to the sales order invoice. Similarly, in scenario 2, the charges are incurred internally. So debit and credit type both have been set to ledger account. When you specify ledger account, it is mandatory to specify posting as well as the account. Notice that you cannot use the item charge in the account receivable module if the type item is selected on the posting tab of the charge code form and info log appears, that states that charges on an item cannot be used. Now let us review the couple of charge code setups for vendors. The above setup in scenario 1 will ensure that the expenses are debited to the product account and added to the value of the goods while invoicing. That is, amount will be paid to vendor directly. Setup in scenario 2 will ensure that the expenses are debited to the correct expense account, that is incurred internally, and added to the vendor's account while invoicing. So as you can see in scenario 1, the charges will be added to the product cost, so that debit type has been set to item and will be paid to vendor. And in scenario 2, the charges will be incurred internally, however will be paid to vendor. Let us review the product demonstration about how to create and set up new charge code. A new charge code can be set up for customers and vendor. In order to set it up for a customer, click on account receivable. Then under the setup, under the charges menu, click on charge code. Similarly for accounts payable, under the setup, under the charges, click on charge code. We will create a new charge code of packaging type, whichever vendor charges. We will set up a new charge code of packaging type for a vendor. So click on charge code here. As you can see here, we have a few sample charge codes already set up in the system. And in order to create a new charge code, click on new. Here give a code of the charge code. You can give any code, it can be alphanumeric. And here we will say packaging charge code. Here you can link any sales tax group if charges is taxable. We can restrict the maximum amount, so we restrict it to the 100 euros. So this charge cannot be more than 100, should be applicable on a purchase order. And this charge will be added to the product cost, so we set the debit type as item and will be paid to the vendor. So credit type should be of customer and vendor type. So this is all. The setup is done. So we in case if you change the ledger account here, the posting type that signifies the reason for or kind of the ledger account, let's say ledger external, and the account is mandatory to specify if the credit type or debit type is set to ledger account. However, for now we'll leave the credit type to customer and vendor. So we have set up a new charge code of packaging type. We cannot specify the charge value here. That we will review later when we edit manually or automatically on a purchase order or sales order. So we just learned about how to create and set up charge code, which is essential to understand before we learn whether to set up charge manually or automatically. Let us understand how to add charge manually on sales order or purchase order first. When you create a sales or purchase order, you can add charges to the order header or the order lines. Typically, you can manually add charges to a sales or purchase order when the charges apply only to the specific order. For example, a customer calls and requests a large order. Because this is not a common order for the customer, the order taker adds the charges directly to the sales order instead of setting up charges for the item. Let us look at the couple of business scenarios. In business case 1, whenever we purchase the road bicycles from vendor 1301, fixed charge of 10 euro is applicable. We will see how to add this charge manually on purchase order. And in business case 2, similarly, when we sell road bicycles to our customer, fixed handling charge of 20 euro is added to the sales order header. Let us review the product demonstration about how to add charges manually on sales order or purchase order. So let us say, whenever we receive a bicycle from vendor 1301, the 10 euros of fixed packaging charge is applicable. So we go to accounts payable, all purchase orders, and create a new purchase order here. Select the vendor 1301, this one, and click OK. And then as a next step, select the product, our bicycle, and here it doesn't matter how many quantities we create a purchase line for. Now in order to add a miscellaneous charges, fix miscellaneous charges of €10 as a packaging charge. Click on purchase action menu and click on maintain charges from the charge group, and here we can add the charge code first, that is of packaging charge, that is the one which we just created. And here we have different categories. Fix means it's a fixed charge, whether it's a €10, €20, €30. But pieces means this can only be used for an order line, because this depends on the how many pieces we are purchasing or selling to customer or vendor. Then percentage is expressed in terms of net amount. So let's say we have two purchase lines. One is having a net amount of 100 and one is having of 50. Then 10% of 100 and 10% of 50 will be added as a charge. This is used for intercompany purpose, and external should be used when it will get calculated by the third party tool during a shipping process or as a third party shipment. For now we use the fixed charge of €10, and that's it. It has been added to the purchase order header. Whatever we edit from a purchase order header will be applicable at purchase order level. Now similarly we can also add charges for the purchase order line by clicking on financials in the middle grid and then click on maintain charge. Similarly we can also add a charge for a specific purchase order line. So we can edit for a header as well as for lines. So this is how we can edit for a purchase order. And when you try to confirm purchase order, system would complain that the charges must be allocated first. We will review the allocation of how to allocate charges, but the thing is that when the charge for which debit type is set to item, that has to be allocated first to purchase order line before we confirm the purchase order. But for now, just understand how to add charges manually on a purchase order. Similarly, we can also edit on a sales order by clicking on under the sales action menu, click on charges from the charges menu, and you can add the charge here the same way as we did it for purchase order. And similarly, we can also add the charges for sales order line by clicking on financials and then click on maintain charges. So this is how we can add the charges manually on a purchase order and sales order. So we are now aware about how to add charge manually on a purchase order or sales order. However, if there is a recurring charge which is applied on purchase or sales order every time, then we can set up the system to add this charge automatically. This kind of charge is set up to automatically add charges when you create a purchase or sales order. Let us say we have three vendor groups: Tier 1 vendor, Tier 2 vendor and Tier 3 vendors, and we have classified the bicycle products into three major categories: Group 1 products, Group 2 products and Group 3 products. We have a scenario so that whenever we receive bicycles from Tier 2 vendor for product belongs to Group 1, €20 of fixed charge is applicable on purchase order. Let us review the product demonstration about how to add charges automatically to sales and purchase order. In order to add charges automatically to purchase order, we need to set up the automatic charges first. In order to set up automatic charge, click on accounts payable. Then under the setup, under the charges group, we have automatic charges. Click on this form, and here we have two types of level: main and line. Main means the charges whenever we want to set up a charges independent of product, that is for the purchase order, then select the level main, and whenever we want to set up charges for a specific vendor and item combination, select the level as line. So in our case, we will set up the automatic charge for Tier 2 vendor and product belongs to Group 1. Before we set up the automatic charge, we need to first create the vendor charge group. In order to create vendor charge group, click on vendor charge group form. Here we have three groups: 10, 20 and 30, Tier 1 vendors, Tier 2 vendors, Tier 3 vendors. And then we need to set up an item charge group. Here we have three groups: Group 1 items, Group 2 items, Group 3 items. You can create a new groups by clicking here new. You can add any number of groups. But important is that the product and vendor for which we want to set up automatic charge should be link to this vendor group and item group. So first we will link vendor 1301 to vendor group tier 2 vendor, that is a vendor group 20. So it is applicable for tier 2 vendors. So we will link this group 20 to the vendor 1301. From accounts payable, under the common, click on all vendors from vendors menu. Filter the vendor for which we want to link a group. So that is 1301. Open this vendor, and under the purchase order defaults first tab, first click on edit. Here we can link a charge group, that is a vendor charge group. So this is tier 2 vendors. And then as a next step, we need to go to release product form, filter the product for which we want to set up our automatic charge, that is a road bicycle. Open the R bicycle. The same way you can also link a customer charge group to customers and set up an automatic charge for sales order. So for now we will link a charge group to product for under the purchase section menu. So here click on edit, and here we can select the charge group, that is group 1 items, that is a 10 number. So we have classified the group 1 products and assign it to the road bicycle. Now as a next step, we can select the automatic charge. So click on automatic charge, and this we want to set up for a vendor item combinations. So level has to be of line type, and here create a new level, new record. Here we can select whether we want to set it for a individual vendor, for a group of vendors, or for all vendors. In our case, we want to set it for a group of vendors, all vendors which belongs to group 20 tier 2 vendors. And here again we can select whether we want to set it for an individual item, group of items, or all items. In our case, it's again for a group of items. So click on group and select the group as a group 1 10. And here we will add 20 euros of fixed charge, that is a handling fee. So 20 euros of handling fee is applicable on the purchase order. So this is done. Now let's verify whether it's done or not. So all we need to create is create a new purchase order. Select the vendor 1301 because this vendor belongs to the group 20, and click on OK. And here select the product, a bicycle, and save the line. As soon as you save the line, we can review the charges by clicking on financial and maintain charge. And as we can see, the 20 euros of fixed charge is applicable now, which has been already calculated by the system automatically based on the automatic setup we did just now. Similarly, we can also set it up for a customer. So this is how you can set it up for set up automatic charge addition. When we go to accounts payable, and when we click on automatic charge, when level is set to main, all the records or all the associations which has been set up here are independent of item and are only applicable to purchase order header. So this is how we can set it up for a purchase order header as well as for a purchase order line in combination of vendor item. The process for the manual setup of a charge for a purchase order resembles the setup of sales order, and it's also true for the automatic setup. However, for purchase orders, the header charges can be allocated to the lines. Charges cannot be allocated for sales order. Typically, you will allocate charges to the lines when the cost must be allocated to each line item in a purchase order. There are 3 different options using which we can allocate header charges to the purchase order line. If the charge is a fixed amount, you determine the method for dividing charges. First, based on the net amount. When this option is selected, the amount is allocated according to the line's net amount. Second is the quantity. The amount is allocated according to the quantity of the units on the lines. And finally, the third option is the per line. When per line is set up, the amount is equally allocated among all lines. If a header charge is added to the order and the debit type is item in the selected charge code, the charge must be allocated to the lines before the order confirmation. Also, if the charge category is anything other than fixed amount, you will be forced to allocate this to the lines. Let us review the product demonstration about how to allocate charges to purchase order line. So here we have a 3 purchase order lines, one with 3 pieces of bicycle, one is with 2, one is with 1 pieces, and here we have a 6 euros of fixed packaging charge added as a purchase order header charge, which we want to allocate to the lines. So when we look at the allocate charges, here we have 3 options, whether we want to do allocation based on net amount, based on quantity, and per line. For now we select the quantity, allocate all. If this checkbox is checked, then in case if we have multiple charges added to the purchase order header, all the charges will be considered for allocation. Otherwise, only the charges for which debit tab is set to item will be considered for allocation. Received, that means only the received product lines will be considered for allocation. This is not applicable when we access this allocation form from the invoice form. Stock, only the stock lines, only the lines which has been stock will be considered for allocation. So for now we select the allocation based on quantity and click on allocate, and we expect that 6 euros should be divided as per the quantity proportion. So here 1 euro should be divided, which can be reviewed by clicking on financial and maintain charge. As we can see, the 1 euros have been allocated to this line, and 2 euros to this middle line, and 3 euros to the first line. Again we add a charge of fixed packaging charge of 6 euro, and this time we do allocation to a specific line. We use this show selections and clear specific line, and here we exclude the 2 lines which we don't want to include for allocation, and only the third line will be added, the 6 euro. So I'm using that one. And now let's look at the third line, and as you can see here there would be 2 charges, one with the 6 euro and one with the 1 euro. So this is how allocations can be done. Then let us look at the concept of tiered charges. You can define the charges that are applied automatically to a sales order based on the order total by defining the from amount and to amount in the auto charges form. You can set up tiers that determine the charge to be applied to the order header. The charge is calculated and applied when you click tiered charges in the sales order form. Any existing tiered charges that no longer apply are removed from the order header and replaced with tiered charges. Charges that have not been applied based on tiers, such as charges for specific items or modes of delivery, are not removed from the order header. It is possible to define and apply tiered charges only at the header level. Let us understand with a business case. Say whenever sales order value is in between 100 euro to 1000 euro, fixed charge of 10 euro is applied, and if order value is in between 1001 to 5000 euro, then fixed charge of 20 euro is applicable. So in order to set up automatic tire charge for a sales order, click on account receivable. Under the setup, click on auto charge from the charge menu. Then here under auto charge, you can only set up the tire charges at the header level, so level has to be of main type. And here we can see we have a tire charge applicable for all customers, and mode of delivery for all mode of delivery. Here you can control whether you want to set it up for a individual customer or for a group of customer. So here we have said that whenever the 10 euros of fixed charge is applicable whenever order amount is in between 100 euro and 1000, and here we have said 20 euros of fixed charge is applicable whenever order amount is in between 1000 and 5000 euro. So now let's try creating a new sales order, and so here we have a sales line. Total amount is 315, so that is in between 100 to 1000. And then as a next step, from the cell action menu, click on tire charges from the calculate action menu. That will calculate the charges, but before that we will just verify we don't have any charge exist already on sales order. So as such, we don't have any charge exist on sales order header. Then click on tire charges and system will calculate and intimate that tire charges have been calculated. Then click on charges, and we can see the 10 euros of fixed charge is applied. We increase the amount so that it exceeds the 1001, and so we make it 800. So the net amount will become 2400, which is less than 500,000. We calculate the tire charges again, and this time 20 euro of fixed charge should be applicable. And as we can see, the tire charges have been updated based on the tire range. Thank you for watching this video.